Today, we'll be talking about the interaction between XR hardware and AI, the inseparability, their past, present, and the future, right? Or both of them. So most of the time at least nowadays, when you hear AI, it's mostly generative AI, everything here, generative AI, whether it's ChatGPT or it's Midjourney or it's Gemini or it's what have you, right? Generative AI. But I think when they talk about the utility of XR and the broader utility of AI, they both kind of converge, right, in this almost symbiotic relationship where XR hardware embodies AI. XR hardware gives AI utility, and AI gives XR hardware usefulness, right? So without AI, it's like you have XR hardware and you have that immersion, right? But at the end of the day, people will be like, okay, it's immersive, but I still have my laptop, I still have my phone. Why do I need to put on this headset? Right? I can just use my laptop to do whatever you're trying to sell to me on this headset. But with AI now, there's a necessity for you to have that immersion, for you to have that spatial awareness. And those are the concepts we are going to go into today. I hope everybody's still with me. If everybody's still with me, please put your hands in the air. Wave it like you just don't care. Okay. So what is XR and what is AI? I'm sure you people here, you people are very smart people, so you people already know what it means, right? I don't need to explain it, but just to fulfill all righteousness, let me just give you people a small definition. So XR is extended reality, is an umbrella term that covers VR, AR, and mixed reality, right? Where VR is obviously your immersive experiences where everything you see is covered by the virtual elements, right? You put on your Quest 3 or you put on your Oculus Rift or you put on your whatever VR headset you put on, and everything you can see is, generated by the computer. You cannot see anything in your room anymore, right? You see videos of people playing VR, maybe they mistakenly, maybe because of the whole pressure, they jump and they hit their head on their TV because they can't really see anything, right? VR is fully immersive. While augmented reality is more of like these futuristic holographic things you see in movies, right? Where you see interfaces overlaid in your environment, right? So let's say, for instance, you have an AR glasses like the HoloLens, and you want to control your smart home, right? Instead of going to click on your light switch with your hand physically, you can just see the UI elements in mid-air, right? You can see the temperature of your house in mid-air. You can see, a lot of information, contextual information in mid-air, and you can just interact with them, right? You are free to see your full environment and nothing is occluded. So that is augmented reality. Why MR is an in-between, right? So because AR is so far away and the hardware to create AR isn't readily available right now, right? So we still have a ways to go to get fully fleshed out AR hardware, right? So the hardware manufacturers or the smart tech people behind this thing created a middle ground called mixed reality, where they use VR headsets like the Quest 3 to simulate AR, right? So because of that, you can now have a blend between augmented reality and virtual reality, where you can take your physical environment and put it in the virtual space and have virtual elements within it and play around with all of that. Now, obviously, I don't think I need to define what AI is. I think everybody has been hearing AI, except people that use Apple. Because I think for people that use Apple, they told them it means Apple intelligence. And the AI I'm talking about is not Apple intelligence, it's artificial intelligence, right? So when we have systems that can replicate human reasoning, right, on any capacity or on any scale, we call those systems artificially intelligent systems, right? So let's go into the history, right? Okay, so the past. Our past in this, I guess, context will start from like 2010s to like 2020s, early 2020s, right? Um, so I'm sure everybody has heard of Google Glass. I think I first heard of Google Glass, I think around 2012, 2013, where they started putting out their first ads for the technology, right? And it was very, very simple heads-up display. As if you can see my screen, you can see a photo of what the Google Glass looked like. It had a camera and it had a battery pack, and you could, clamp it on top a normal pair of glasses and have all of that. And then it was very bare bones, but you could see the trajectory they were going on, right? Where you can have this information at your, I don't want to use the term fingertips because fingertips don't really fit in this context. You can have information in your line of sight, basically, right? And interact with that information on the go. So we had the Google Glass. Then after Google Glass, Microsoft came out with their fully fleshed out holographic platform, right? Back then they weren't calling it XR. They came out with the HoloLens, and this was the HoloLens I saw, the first iteration of the HoloLens that made me decide to really actually go into XR. And then after coming out with this first iteration, obviously the field of view was very small. It wasn't very performant. So some years later, they came out with the second version with a slightly wider field of view, a little bit more performance, but it didn't really do that well because it cost $3,500, right? It's a very expensive piece of hardware. And then Meta and Mark Zuckerberg, they started to venture into VR, and their first fully fleshed out VR headset was the Oculus Rift, which is over here. And then some dude, I'm trying to remember his name, I think Ronnie Ambrovitz. I think he's like a Jewish guy. He raised a ton of money back then. This dude raised like $3 billion over a period of like 3 years. He raised money from Google, Sony, a bunch of people. He had this promising them this light field display, told them that wow, everything will be like Iron Man, and people were giving this guy money. Like then it was just hype, right? And he ended up creating Magic Leap. Unfortunately, Magic Leap turned out to not be what he had promised investors Magic Leap was. It was just like the HoloLens, had very low field of view, it wasn't very performant, and it was quite expensive. And so after a few years, obviously they had burnt billions of dollars, right? He had to come up with another device, and they came up with the Magic Leap 2. But by that time, they had sacked like 90% of their staff. They had had a new CEO, they had sacked the guy, and the Magic Leap 2 still didn't really do that well. They tried to pivot into enterprise, but it didn't really work out. And last I heard of Magic Leap was that Google had bought them for something. I don't know, Google just buys companies and then you don't hear from those companies anymore. So in the present, what do we have as regards XR hardware? So I'm sure I can see a Quest 3 on the table. I'm sure that's a Quest 3, right? Is that a Quest 3 or is that a Vision Pro? I don't know, but I think there's a Quest 3 there. Um, you have your Quest 3, you have your Quest 2, you have your Quest 3S, you have your Quest Pro, you have your Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and you have your Vision Pro, right? I'm sure these are headsets that everybody is familiar with. Um, Let me continue from where I was. The only headset I did not put a picture of here is the Snap Spectacles, right? Because it's just like the Meta Ray-Bans. And they've actually done a new version now that is trying to be like a fully fleshed out AR headset, but it's quite bulky and it obviously is not a good market fit. So let us talk about the future. I think this is the exciting part. This is the part that we are all looking forward to, and this is where AI plays a very crucial role, right? So we have leaks that there will be two versions of the Meta Quest 4, right? Prior to release in 2026, they might actually scrap it down to one version. But right now, we think there are going to be like two versions, maybe a standard version and a pro version, codenamed, oh no, let me go back, codenamed Prismo High and Prismo Low. Now, we don't know what these versions will have, but going by what we already have with the Quest 3 and what we had with the Quest Pro, we're assuming they might have micro LED displays, they might have a wider field of view, they might be lighter, they might have better battery life, and they might have more onboard AI processing with an onboard NPU that they can get from their Snapdragon SoC. Now, Apple is also claiming that they are going to make a lighter version of the Vision Pro that some people are codenaming Vision Air, right? The same way they have their MacBook Air and all of that. And then this year we'll be getting a third iteration of their Meta Ray-Ban glasses. So this version of Meta Ray-Ban glasses called Hypernova would actually have a HUD, right? So I don't know if any of you have seen the Google showcase where they showcase this pair of glasses that have like a small screen in one of the lenses. I don't know if you've seen that recently on the news. Can you raise up your hand? So none of you have seen like this Android XR Google glasses recently. Okay. Well, the Meta Ray-Bans are going to be like that, hopefully, right? There might be some slight changes with how they might, lay out the display, but basically it's the same technology to be monocular. So the screen will be on one lens, and then you would actually be able to put on the glasses, and you have like a tiny HUD in front of your eye, and it would give you information, almost like the Google Glass, but sleeker and obviously much more modern than the Google Glass. Then I think you guys have heard of the Samsung XR headset project Muhan. I think what's his name? I'm trying to remember his name. Was just talking about it with you guys before I started this. And then Google's XR glasses that you all haven't seen, even though it's been in the news for a while now. And then Project Orion. So this photo we have over here is a photo of Project Orion, right? This is Meta's flagship device that they are working towards. So the goal for Meta has been to have all the goodness of their VR headset like the Quest have all that processing capacity to put it inside a small regular glasses that everybody can wear and walk around. Obviously, their tech isn't up to that yet, and this is the best they've been able to do. So they have a compute POC that handles all the computation outside of the glasses and wirelessly transmits data to the glasses. This is the glasses over here. And they have an EMG wristband that tracks signal from your brain and stays on your wrist, almost like a wristwatch, and then you can make hand gestures and control the glasses. I think it was big news last year during Connect, and everybody started running helter skelter after Meta showed this off, and everybody started changing their, you know, um, trajectory as regards this technology to make something similar because they couldn't understand how Meta had been able to go so far. So now back to business. Where is this interaction between AI and XR, and why are they inseparable? Right? So because that is the main core of this discussion. Now, this is the part where I would usually ask questions, but I'm just going to break down a few things, make sure I give you the understanding of what I'm talking about, and then hopefully you guys would have some questions for me and we'll move from there. So there are two concepts I'm going to talk about as regards XR and AI and their interaction. The first of these concepts is multimodal world understanding. Did you guys get that? If you got that, can you please raise your hand in the air? Okay. So the first concept is multimodal world understanding, right? Now, in order for AI to be able to understand the world, it needs a platform that can give it the data it needs to understand the world, right? AI thrives on data. Now, some data are useless data, in terms of the context in which that data exists, and some data are useful data. Now, for AI to get world understanding, it needs the kind of data it can only get from a wearable, like an XR device, like a pair of glasses. Now, multimodal AI is AI that can understand different kinds of data. So an AI that can understand speech and sight and motion or other things like that and put them in context with each other and make sense of it. That is what we call multimodal AI. Now, for any AI to be truly intelligent and for any form of AI to truly understand the world, it must be multimodal. The same way we human beings are multimodal. So you're not only hearing me, but you're seeing me, you're seeing what is on the screen, you can read what is on the screen, you can hear what I'm saying, and you can make sense of it. So AI needs that data to thrive, right? Now, this photo over here, you see a bunch of food ingredients, and this is actually a showcase of Meta's Orion glasses I showed you in the last slide, right? So now, with your Orion XR glasses, you can look at all these food ingredients, quote unquote, and ask Meta's AI, what can I make with these ingredients, right? The same way you can ask a normal human being, right? I can show you Gary, granules, sugar, and ask you, oh, what can I make with all of this? And you tell me, a guy, you can soak Gary, things like that. That's the same way with this AI, you can look at all these ingredients, even though this one is fancy, it's American people. You can look at all these ingredients and ask the AI, what can I make with it? And because it has that world understanding and it is multimodal, it understands what you're saying and it understands what it is seeing. So it is not just hearing what you're saying, but it is also seeing what you are seeing because it is on a pair of glasses that you are wearing on your head. So you can see that relationship where the XR hardware has the camera, has the time of flight sensor, has the gyroscope, has all those things that can give data to the AI that the AI can now make sense of and in turn give the XR glasses utility for its user, right? I'm sure you guys are not reading all these things I wrote here, so I'm just going to move to the next slide. So the second aspect of this relationship is spatial awareness, right? It's almost in lockstep with multimodal world understanding. But spatial awareness is the concept that makes XR headsets work, right? Where XR headsets must be able to map the user's physical environment in order to place content within that physical environment. Now, if you look at this game someone is playing over here, you can notice that there's a table in between them, and this table is not a virtual table. This is a real table, right? But you can see all these virtual elements around them. And so you ask yourself, how does this headset know that this table is here and know where the person is standing and know where the other person is standing and knows where to place all these elements intelligently? And know how to handle collisions on real objects and virtual objects alike, and to do all of that in real time. That is where we need spatial awareness. Now, AI also comes in with the context of spatial awareness because when the raw data comes in from the time of flight sensor, where the raw mesh data, so the time of flight sensor is able to track the environment, give you all this raw position data. So the AI can then take this data and create a spatial mesh and feed that mesh to the XR headset, and then the XR headset can use that data to overlay information. So you can see it's a symbiotic relationship. And then that information can in turn be fed to the AI, and the AI can make what it wants to make out of that information and give it back to the user. So it enables the headset to recognize surfaces, objects, room layouts, and it's very crucial to have any sort of immersive experience on an XR device. So these two concepts are the easiest ways, I think, or the most straightforward ways in which I can explain the interaction between XR hardware and AI and why they are inseparable, and why the only form of profitable AI hardware we can have would have to be an XR device. And we can see it today. Everybody's jumping on the AI bandwagon, right? But the most profitable form of the AI bandwagon, that's like the goose that lays the golden egg, is hardware, right? Anybody that can make AI native hardware and get people to buy that AI native hardware will make billions, basically. Like that person is set for life, right? That will be the next iPhone. That will be the next, Mac, right? So you've seen companies like Humane. I don't know if you've heard of, there was a company last year that made this small brooch-like device that you could put on your shirt. And it was like an AI device. It had like a camera, but it didn't really do well. And there was another one called Rabbit R1 that it turned out that all the capabilities of that device could have just been an app on a smartphone, right? That is the problem these AI native hardware attempts have nowadays, because without that XR data, without the data that you can only get from an XR device and that immersion, having an AI native form of hardware makes no sense to any consumer. So I don't know, maybe one of you here is a prospective hardware designer. Maybe one of you here owns your own tech company and you want to make your own form of, AI native hardware and you're contemplating things to make. Please make it a pair of glasses that people can wear and can see their environment and can obviously get spatial data from the environment. that is the only way you can sell or catch up on this AI trend hardware-wise, right? And that's what Meta is doing with the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. Because with the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, they made the first version, I think, a couple of years ago. It sold moderately well, but the whole point of that pair of glasses was to have point of view videos and pictures for Instagram. ChatGPT hadn't blown up yet, generative AI hadn't blown up yet at that point. So with ChatGPT and generative AI and the AI craze going on with their second iteration, they put Meta AI on it. So now Meta AI is multimodal. It can see what you see and it can hear what you hear, right? And they have leveraged that with those glasses, and it has become the major selling point of the glasses. And those glasses, they've gone from Instagram glasses to AI glasses, right? And that is the most successful form of AI hardware on earth right now, right? And Meta, they sold more than they thought they were going to sell. I think at this point they sold millions. And I think like at some point they had overgone their inventory and they had to go back and start, rescale, like obviously scaling back and, creating more glasses to show you that, okay, the market is there for this sort of hardware. But for that sort of hardware to sell, that AI leverage has to be there, obviously. So in conclusion, to summarize everything I've said about the interaction between XR hardware and AI, is that XR provides an immersive stage for interaction, while AI delivers the intelligence that makes those interactions meaningful, right? So if you're wearing your XR headset or your XR glasses and you're interacting with things, AI is what gives that interaction utility, right? If you're somewhere and you're looking for what to eat, or you're somewhere and you're looking for, maybe you're in a hospital, you're looking for where a particular ward is, maybe you want to say dentist, you're like, oh, where's the dental ward? The AI will come in and give you directions, right? That is utility, right? If you want to cook something and have a bunch of ingredients and you can say, okay, what can I cook with this? And it gives you a detailed meal plan and a detailed, direction on how to cook the food. That is utility. So that is the symbiotic relationship between the both of them. So I will now be taking questions and probably be asking questions.
So I was wondering, when it comes to AI and XR, right? Because XR has, for the longest time, have this stereotype of it being a low-end device, right? And AI always requires a lot of power, a lot of processing power. Um, how do you see, so for example, now the Google XR demo that happened last week, right? You noticed that a bit of choppiness, and that was really because of like the AI is not embedded into the device yet. It's still like on the server somewhere, and they're kind of like streaming it down. So based on, I don't know how to ask the question, but like, how do you see integration so coming on? Is there going to be possibility to be on like the AI will be embedded to the device? So I'm talking more around, I'm not talking about the specialized AI, but around the LLMs or big ones. So obviously the specialized ones, those ones can stay on the device because they're very small models. But I was wondering like the big ones, the ones that you say is like the key to it being useful. So you get what I mean, right? So how when do you think that will happen, or just what are your thoughts on that in general, if you understand?
Okay, that's a good question. I hope you can still hear me.
Yes, yes, I can still hear
Okay.
you.
So AI is run on the cloud, right? It's mainly run on the cloud, on data centers on the cloud, right? And I watched the same Google conference you're talking about, and my theory of why it was choppy is not even because of the network. I think the glasses were overheating. That is my own expert, from my expert lens, quote unquote, what I think was happening was that the lady had been wearing glasses for too long and they've not worked out the heat transfer elements in the glasses, because the glasses are so small, right? And the smaller your surface area, the more your SoC is susceptible to heat. So I feel the reason why those glasses are not available for all of us to buy is because there are still aspects of the hardware they've not figured out, right? Especially heat. Now, AI runs on the cloud, and we've been running AI on our phones for quite a while now. And I've been using Google Live for like I think the past few weeks, and it's seamless, right? And I feel in future it will even be more seamless because internet speed will increase, the power of SoC will increase. SoCs nowadays are having their own neural processing units to even speed that up more. So I think any glitches we see at this point are just as a result of maybe, they're trying new hardware limitations, things like heat or stupid, design choices. There are some companies, you make a device and it makes up make some crazy design choices that nobody understands why you're making them, and then they end up affecting the end product. Outside things like that, like I think for the most part, if any company plays it safe with the what would you call it? ARM, right? That's risk with our reduced instruction sets computers we are using with that framework. I don't see any device having any real issue hosting those large models.
Okay, next question. Thank you for the presentation. So here's my question. The XR and AI, it sounds like enterprise level sort of like development. I don't know, are there opportunities for someone like working on an indie level, right? So what opportunities there are there tools that devs can leverage to contribute to some of this hardware, or probably software, or like what are the opportunities that exist?
So Timiline, you want to know the opportunities that can exist for like small developers or like just hobbyists? I'm trying to understand your question.
Yes.
Okay. To the extent to which the software exists, right? Obviously, because as a hobbyist, you can do hardware, but you cannot take that hardware to the final form without having backing and having a factory and having all of that, right? There's a guy on YouTube, an Italian guy, very intelligent guy called Manolo. I watch his videos from time to time. He actually makes XR hardware like as a hobbyist, but most people are not that level, right? So let's just stick on software. Now, we already have cheap enough XR headsets that you can buy and leverage AI to build applications on. Headsets like the Meta Quest 3S, I think Meta Quest 3S is like 650,000, right? It's reasonably cheap for the technology you're getting. Meta Quest 3 is like 1 million or like 900 for the technology you're getting, right? Because Meta is selling these devices at a loss, right? Because they want to make their money back on services. Now, I would tell you, as a matter of fact, right? This is not hearsay. This is not something I read somewhere. This is from my own life experience, right? That my Meta Quest 3 is probably one of the best devices I've ever bought in my life. Outside my laptop that I'm using to talk to you right now, it's the most useful device I own, and it has paid back for itself. Because when I bought my Meta Quest 3, I think November of 2023, like a few months after it came out, like 800 and something K. And it has paid for itself over and over. At this point, I can't even count, right? In terms of financially and utility, right? It's an amazing device that is worth less than what it is actually worth, right? For me, it is a steal. So if you have a device like that and you're a developer and you know what you're doing, you can not only make applications that you can easily put on the Horizon store, because now it's like the Wild West. It's not, there aren't as much people as in mobile and in other platforms, right? You can do stuff that is actually new. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like you can do things that people have never done before. Like actual groundbreaking state-of-the-art stuff, especially where you have all these free AI models, things like Gemini, that where you can get free tokens, you can experiment, you can do a ton of stuff. Like your imagination is your only limit when it comes to XR and AI and creating even small applications. Just sit down in your house, oh, I want to create an application about paintings in museum. I want to have my own personal art gallery in my house, right? You create your art gallery in your house. Your XR headset knows where your walls are and it can place the paintings around you, right? You leverage that to artists, right, that want to do digital art expositions. Before you know, they can leverage that to their audience. Now, you have a situation where you want to understand the metadata behind artworks. That is where AI comes in. You can have your AI agents read the raw metadata and put it in actual English that people can understand. You see, this is just random off my head, right? But there are a lot of solutions. Like anything you can think of, actually, if you're willing to actually do the work to build, because a lot of people today, they don't want to actually, they don't want to do the work, right? They are just waiting for like some kind of, shortcut but if you're willing to do the work, then your imagination is your limit. There are a lot of opportunities. Once you invest on actually getting the hardware, everything else would come easy. At the end of the day, right, AI is like, what is the word I would call it? It's like this Pandora's box that has been opened and we cannot see the bottom of it. We don't know how it will change society, but we know it will change society. We don't know the degree to which it will change society, but we know in the next few decades, the world will not be the way the world is today. Right? The world would have changed radically. And at the helm of this change will be agentic AI. That is like it's agents that work on your behest, and physical AI, that's like embodied agentic AI like robots. And then the form of AI that we are talking today that is embodied in glasses and that can act as an extension of yourself, right? If we take it to that extent. Now, I think there are some reservations as regards privacy, as regards personage, as regards all these kind of things. But at the end of the day, my opinion is that when there is utility, nobody will care about any of these things, right? If the utility is so obvious, if the utility of these headsets, of these AI agents is so obvious, is so self-evident, then no one will really care about any of those other downsides. And maybe in future, we might live in a world where you could steal someone's identity, clone someone's behavior with AI, and use that person to commit scams online and do things like that. And or companies like Apple can restrict your personage via AI, and they only use AI to feed you what you want to see, so that you keep giving them money and things like that. I don't know, maybe that could be the future we are heading to, but I feel like humanity is evolving. So there might even be problems that we can't even contemplate right now that would come out as a result of that. But yeah, at this point, I can say that we can be optimistic, obviously, as technologists, that it will be a net good for humanity to have this technology.
I don't know if there's any other questions, but thank you so much for these Chuks. You can connect with him online on LinkedIn, right? That's the best place. LinkedIn, on Twitter, on X. Which one?
Yeah, LinkedIn, X. Oh, I should have put my links in this. I forgot.
Yeah, no
LinkedIn,
worries.
X, any one of them.
Super. Yeah, so you can reach out to me if you have further questions. He's actively experimenting with this technology, so if you are learning, he's one of the best persons you can reach out to for XR related stuff and game stuff as well. What is it? His full name, Chuks Okafor. We tagged him in the LinkedIn post as well, so you can just check that. You'll see him tag there and connect with him. Right? Please let's clap for him. Thank you so much, Chuks. Thank you very much. Yeah.